Monday, April 19th, we are starting a new training cycle in our online training program, The Design. If you're not aware of what The Design is, it's our program that's designed to help people improve at competitive CrossFit, and we have 4 divisions. We have Intermediate, RX, Elite, and Masters.
But if you don't have time for long training sessions and want something you can get done in 60 minutes or less, or if you're not necessarily a competitor in CrossFit, check out our other program, Design Fitness. Click the link up here or in the description down below.
In this video, I'm gonna break down what that cycle looks like. Then at the end of me breaking it down on this whiteboard, I'm gonna have our 4 coaches come out, or 3 coaches and me, and we're gonna have a deep dive discussion about the specifics of each one of those divisions. If you want more information after this video, you can also head to trainingthinktank.com/DSGN to see a sample training week and how we deliver the actual program. So let's jump into it. First, RX and Intermediate. So we just finished the Open, we just finished stage 2 of the Open, and now we're moving into what Mike is calling limiter season. Essentially, everyone goes through the competitive season, you get exposed, and you realize that you have specific limitations in the sport. Now, for most athletes that we saw in the Intermediate and RX divisions in our program, it was strength and skill dependent. That's the primary thing that we want to work on. So what we are going to focus on in the training: primary strength targets. We are going to work on retesting 4RM front squat, since that came out in stage 2 of the CrossFit Games. Then we're going to work on 1RM back squat. We're also going to work on 1RM deadlift. For the Olympic lifts, instead of focus on just driving up 1RM snatch and clean and jerk, we're going to focus on some more varied complexes. Because the complex came out as 21.4, where you had to do the deadlift, then a clean, then a hang clean, then a jerk, we found that athletes that didn't have a lot of barbell exposure in some of these less experienced divisions, they weren't close to their 1RMs in terms of percentages relative to the elite athletes that have more exposure to using the barbell. So we wanted to give some development of the slow strength to drive up back squat, front squat, just so that you're more grunt strong, but then also improve the efficiency of barbell cycling, the grip strength of taking a relatively heavy barbell from the front rack back into the rack of a hang, or back into the hang position. When you're just doing Olympic lifting cycles and doing clean and jerks in singles or snatches in singles, oftentimes athletes aren't exposed to that, so they don't have the ability and the grip strength to grab the bar and hang on to it when it's super heavy. So we're gonna go through a training cycle where we hit some varied complexes there. For pressing, we're gonna work on seated press. And then something that we're adding right now, which is a really good time in the off season, is some muscular endurance work. So this could be thought of as pump or bodybuilding style training. This can translate pretty well into developing some structural strength for chest to bars, for handstand push-ups, for just elbow strength for pressing and pulling. So we thought that this would be a good way to develop strength for this RX and Intermediate group. Now, the training will still be segmented for this group, but we'll be following the same general template. And then Mia will come into the Intermediate path and add some specific skill-based scale downs and some specific skill-based programs that are for the people that are struggling to hit some of the skills in the training. That's strength. Then CrossFit. We're going to be moving to 1 to 3 Metcons per week. One of those will be the return of the throwdown, and we're going to move into kind of a series where we're going to do some fun stuff where we make the throwdown a little bit more semi-final oriented, where it's kind of an in-person style competition workout. So some higher skills, moving the barbells forward, just doing some things that might not necessarily only show up in online qualifiers. So you can have some fun developing that competitive mindset and practicing strategy, but away from the qualifier style theme, which we'll obviously get back to because the RX and Intermediate path will primarily be using the Open as their competitive season. So in this off season, we'll kind of have a little bit of fun with the throwdown, so that way we can integrate this group into our on-site environment of the athletes that did qualify through to the semifinals. Then we'll be doing more intervals, EMOMs, and speed work at low intensity. Speed work and low intensity work for the conditioning that is not just the straight CrossFit style stuff. There's a lot of programs out there that will hit 5 Metcons a week every day, and they'll always be doing the high intensity stuff. We don't necessarily think that's the best idea for longevity. So when we're moving into an off season, when you don't need as much practice of the sport and you're trying to build that big base, now we're going to kind of integrate some of those other methods. Then specific to the intermediate, we're going to do a little bit more skill development work. The two primary movements right now that we're working on are toes to bar and handstand push-ups. So that's a big picture overview of what we're doing for RX and intermediate. Moving into elite, we're in semi-prep mode. So all the people that made it in the elite to the semifinals, you guys are gonna mimic our on-site environment. So I put on-site mirror here. So Travis, Noah, Alessandra, our whole group is gonna be following a program, and you guys are gonna basically be following along in the same program, same structure that they're gonna be doing. Can't give you specifics to the peaking structure yet because the semifinals operate over the course of 4 weeks. So I'll kind of work with the people in the group to figure out how we peak and taper each individual relative to when they're competing. But some training specifics, we're gonna up the volume of running. Right now I have 3 run sessions in there. They're gonna be different. So some days are gonna be long and easy. Some days will be interval format, like maybe preparing for something like a 5K. And some days will be mixed, preparing for something like Helen, where there's multiple 400s mixed in with CrossFit implements. So different styles of running in the program. We'll be adding 1 day of week of swimming in on Thursday. That could potentially be something we see at semifinals. More likely it's just at the games, but we're just gonna start to build that swim base now and give you an option on Thursday to do it and have some structure to your swimming. We're gonna do the in-person style workouts, which again is the return of the throwdowns on Saturday. We're gonna keep running some strength progressions. Obviously, in order to be good at CrossFit at the elite level, you need to be strong. So we're gonna get back into structured strength. The 5 weeks of the open, or the 3 weeks of the open, the 10 days between, and then stage 2, I think our structured strength progressions were in kind of maintenance mode. So we're gonna get back into some structured developmental work there, and then we're gonna add more cyclical work to get better for rowing, assault bike, ski erg, and all the implements that you generally see at in-person workouts in those sprint style workouts. That's the elite path. Masters, we've already done a video of this. So masters are in stage 2 prep. That is in the beginning of May. Brandon has broke it down or I broke it down in a video. Brandon's broke it down in a video in the design. So if you sign up, you can check out Sunday where he lays out the template. They're gonna do a simulation where they get ready for the for the stage 2, similar to how we did in the elite and the RX path before stage 2 individual. So masters are going to be continuing in that cycle. It's not a new cycle for this group because they're still getting ready for stage 2, whereas these 3 groups have already went through stage 2. So if you're a masters athlete, your new cycle video will come out after we finish stage 2. That's all I got for all 4 of the divisions. Now, me, Brandon, Mia, and Mike are gonna break it down in a conversation. Enjoy that. If you need some more information about how we're gonna train in the design, head over to trainingthinktank.com/DSGN. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new design cycle video. We have a new addition, Mia.
Hello.
Hi, Mia.
Hi, Mia. New addition to the video, not to the design.
Yeah, just the video.
They usually make me sit behind the camera, sit quiet.
With your head down.
All right, what are we talking about in this video? We got a bunch of things to cover.
Are you asking me?
Well, it was like a general question. All right, here's what we're going to talk about in this video. We have a bunch of things to cover. First, let's just do like a general recap of the quarterfinals. It just ended. A lot of success.
Yeah.
Very happy with how the athletes did. Yeah, I mean, we don't know anything officially yet, but people that are going through, we had a big on-site presence. It was crazy getting it all organized, but I feel very confident that we did a pretty good job having athletes prepared for all the movements that came out.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Who won? Who won North America?
I
forgot
don't
his
know
name.
who that
I remember
guy
his
is.
name. His name is Travis Mayer, unlike everyone else.
Yeah, I think on-site was pretty good. We had 9 athletes, some of the on-site trainees, and then a couple athletes that came in, qualify, one that's just on the bubble, so almost 10, a 10th coming to train on-site. So it'll be
other design athletes that made it.
Yeah,
Yep,
Lots
some
of
remote
individual
ones.
Dylan
athletes.
Pettit, Sam Stewart. So it was a pretty good experience. What about the people that didn't qualify? What was the experience like just in terms of that top 10% and then going to 120? That's a pretty big jump. So there were a lot of people that had, and my focus was primarily on the people here.
Yeah, I think, I mean, just based on the results and the comments in the design, everyone was pretty happy with how they performed. I think a lot of it too was those that had the ability to set up the weekend had a better experience, because when they announced those changes, it was like a lot, and I had a lot of people that were like, man, this is like, I did not plan to change my work schedule. Like, this is just hard to do. But I mean, those that were able to set it up and get all the workouts in, like in a very like efficient order, did great.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, it was just a good learning experience for their first time. And then next year you'll have a better plan going into it if they don't change everything again.
I was very careful because the CrossFit media guy was here. I was like, don't say anything too derogatory about the changes being last minute.
I have
successful in that.
I don't know. I probably let something slip.
Look, I have a ton of respect for those that had to do it with working around schedules and still coaching classes. Like, I have a bunch of, athletes that were making a push for the top 120 that like still had to coach classes in the middle of the day. Like, they didn't get the rest that they wanted. Now, that's not an excuse, because like the weekend was planned to do it, but they had planned on doing them Saturday, Sunday kind of deal. And the dates I think even went to Sunday.
It was just Sunday at 3.
But they had planned on like all day Saturday, Sunday, and then like, okay, well, this comes out to be competitive. I kind of have to do them on Thursday.
Yeah. And it was a little bit different in that stage 1 of the games last year, you had the deadlines of the workouts, but you had to do them in that order.
Yeah.
Now they gave you all the workouts, but you didn't have to do it in that order. So everyone was like, well, I want a front squat right away because I'll be fresh. And it changed the whole dynamic of, repeats, doing a workout, testing some on Thursday night because they came out early on Thursday. So definitely some logistical things that I think we learned and can do better on. But I think overall, from a training preparation standpoint, it was about as spot on as we could have been.
Even for those that didn't make it, I think most people, the feedback that I've seen in the design especially has been positive. We did a lot of the combos, or we did a 3RM front squat and leading up to that cycle. So people were prep for 3 at least. They got that 4th rep, which is really hard to finish. And then GHD, pistol, rope climb, we comboed that almost every single week for the last 8 weeks. So it was nice. I mean, that was a ton of volume, and maybe they weren't prepped for 180 of those, but I think we did a good job there. And then high powered work. We did a ton of heavy barbell snatches or cleans, and obviously snatches came out with burpee box jump. So I think people were prepped, and we get to learn from that too. Like, what are the biases that CrossFit is giving us? And then also we can look at everybody's scores and now start training for them for the next year.
We were also really well prepared for muscle ups and handstand walking.
Yes, we were. Well, for those going on to semifinals, it definitely will happen.
Which we didn't see any of.
Yeah, like magically the week before, they just were removed from the equipment list. It just was no longer there. I was like, okay.
All right.
Here we go.
They had to have something like that, right? And then they just decided against it. Like a 6 workout that had that.
Still coming.
Yeah. Well, if for teams and masters.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, masters are going to keep doing those.
Yeah, I'm going to check the movement list weekly just to make sure it's not updated. They don't send out like an
every 2 hours.
They didn't like, hey everyone, you're doing this competition. We just updated the movement list. You got to kind of like, it's the Wild West, and you got to be super adaptive. And anyway, I have a ton of respect for athletes that were very adaptive with it. I think for those that were able to keep it together and just be responsible with following the standards, getting submissions in, you just beat a ton of people as a result of that, regardless of fitness.
Yeah. Top 10%, there's probably a huge amount of people in there that just kind of gave up before it started because it didn't fit the mental framework of what they were preparing to go in.
Yes.
And to be fair to that group of people, it is frustrating. It's frustrating as a coach being in a sport and then being like, okay, here's the rules, here's the rule book. And then the rules literally change on Monday before and change again on Thursday before. That is frustrating. But if you want to compete in the sport, you got to be flexible.
Yeah. Like I hate to say you need to have that expectation, but that's just the reality. CrossFit is they do CrossFit things.
We also set that up in our simulation a couple weeks ago for everyone that did stage 2, where we put a bunch of workouts out and they had to kind of figure it out in a few days and get them done. For those that wanted to retest, they had to figure that out too. So, I mean, there will always be unknowns in the sport. And so we just have to kind of adapt to that, but also teach the athletes to be able to adapt to that on the fly.
Yeah. So with what we know after stage 2, obviously a large majority of the field, the followers, the community is done. Their season's done. So what did things look like moving forward for each division in the design?
Well, I'll do the elite and then Brandon can do the masters because for me, I feel like the season's just getting started, but I think for the large majority of the people that this video is actually for, it's over. So I think the elites, the elites, we're going into semifinal prep right now. I can't give too many of the details because we still don't understand how you select into the semifinals and how we're going to manage the fact that the semifinals span from essentially the end of May until June. So I will have a peaking structure, and go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and one of them we know is now online.
Yeah, at least one.
Two of them.
Two are online.
Yeah. So that changes what you test.
Exactly. So I will have a structure that will be adaptive, but I'm going to model the elite path off of our on-site group, which means we're going to be doing more running, which will be a combination of distance running, speed and agility, just preparation for if people pass through the semifinals, strongman style running, and then mixed running of like in the gym CrossFit stuff mixed with running. So if it's like a 4-round for time of run and burpees, the people are prepared for that. We'll do 1 swim a week. We'll get back into our strength progressions. We set targets in January 4th, and we're going to do a little bit of retesting and some strength progressions. You want to just briefly breeze into the elite strength stuff?
Yeah, let me pull it up. I got a bunch of different divisions, so a bunch of different templates. Yeah, I mean, I think something that we said that needs to be consistent in all elite training cycles is squat progressions.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's tested often. So we'll continue with back squat progressions leading back up for the next couple weeks. Wednesday is going to be, where are we at here? We'll go to Friday. Friday is going to be barbell cycling, ladder, sport-specific focus. So having opportunities to basically practice an on-site environment where you're having to walk with a barbell, doing touch-and-go complexes and cluster-type sets, different elements going into sprint-style stuff, kind of like what we saw at the final event in the Open.
Yeah.
Right? Like we saw a lot of our guys do well in it, but realize, okay, this needs work if you take the top people.
The Open or
this.
stage 2?
Sorry, stage 2.
The snatch,
stage
burpee,
2.
box jump over workout.
Yep. And then Saturday is going to be strongman focused, like just different elements, making sure that there's a bunch of things that they're getting exposure to, because there's always, different movements that show up in like in a regional style in-person format. So
yeah. And then the other thing that I'm adding some low intensity cyclical work just to build some more volume and exposure on all the machines, because there could, be another machine work. And then one thing I'm adding that we haven't really done a ton of is just like a pump style workout and pump style accessory sessions. Cause I feel like in-person competitions, there's so many workouts that's dumbbell work and rope climbs, or strict handstand push-ups and shoulder to overhead, where the limitation becomes just that occlusion and singular pressing over and over and over again, or pulling.
Yep.
So going to do some of that work. And that's basically the structure. I don't know if I need to go into much detail. We'll be in triples. It's, back to training, back to business. Hopefully everybody that was in the elite path got through, or most of the people got through, and we're just back on what we had laid out in the January 4th video that I put out.
Yeah, and it's going to change as the season, as we continue to learn things about how the announcement of semifinals works, because some people are 8 weeks out, some people are 4 weeks out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tight.
Yeah, and we might get workouts.
Yep.
So you might be Mid-Atlantic, we have the workouts and we're going to prep that group for it, and somebody in the Atlas Games is going to run where you're not going to get the workouts until the release date, and it's going to run like stage 2. So I think a lot of that will be me just being adaptive and being in communication with the very small number of people in the design that are following that path. So if you are in the path and you're not individually coached by me or in a hybrid format, just hit me up and let's start to develop a little bit more deep lines of communication from now through semis.
Yeah, and I would say too, for those that maybe follow our throwdowns or just like watching our videos that made it, that haven't been following design, this is a good time to jump into, so you actually have good prep going into the semifinals.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a question for the people in the elite path who did not make it through. What do you recommend for them to do?
I recommend going into the base level of training, actually going through an off season. I don't think it makes sense right now to prepare for a semifinals level of volume if you're not going to one. I mean, maybe you can follow the main path, check out the elite, and just pick and choose some of the sessions to add. But I'd recommend, just based on what we're doing for training, that, for example, just a simple example, doing barbell ladders where you're walking forward with a barbell instead of developing your 1RM is not really a trade-off I'd say is worth it. I think you're better off right now if you have 4 months to do a proper off season and your next competition is going to be
say Wadapalooza actually happens in December and that's going to be your first competition, spend this time to get stronger and kind of decompress from the season, as opposed to like, well, I'm going to ramp up. I just don't think it really makes sense.
It's a good time too to review the workouts that you just did. Okay, which of the 5 did I do well on? Which of the 5 did I do poorly on? And then figure out how you need to get better and have a conversation maybe with one of us if you want to reach out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think too. I mean, this is just an off-season talk in general. Like it's April right now. You've got to take advantage of making sure that your body is getting back to 100% health too. I think if you've got anything that's been kind of chronic, tweaks, nagging injuries that have just kind of been there for a while and actually slowed down your progress in training, like now is the time where you have the ability to back off a little bit and let that kind of heal up, and then actually get into some of the progressions that are going to take time to develop the big limiters that you had in some of these workouts that stopped you from actually getting to the next stage.
Yeah. I used to have to fight that argument all the time because Rich Froning would never take an off season, would always be training. So it's nice to have Fraser come out and talk about how much time he actually takes off and how he actually has structured off seasons.
Yeah. Well, the thing, I mean, Rich Froning didn't have major limiters.
Yeah,
you know?
true.
I mean, maybe like some running from the games, but he was still winning the game. So it's like, if you're someone who got 1,000th place in the front squat, like that's a major limiter that you have to take time and pull away from the things that are slowing down progress in that. And now is the time to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got to keep in mind, like on the male side, 1,000th place was like 330 pounds. That's still really strong.
I
so
know.
like you have to be
In
strong
North
in the
America,
sport.
yeah.
Yeah. So in North America. So you have to be really strong in the sport. And I think that should be an indicator of like, I need to take a step back with all of the Metcons and actually focus on the absolute strength.
Yeah. So that's me. That's elite.
Yeah, Masters. I mean, this is you guys that are following the Masters have had a couple of videos already.
What are the wise and the rest will do it?
The very wise.
I'm a Masters and not wise though.
Nor am I. The next few weeks is we're finishing our train up for their stage 2, the online qualifier for them. So this is Monday, April 12th when we're filming this video. So this weekend, the 16th, 17th, and 18th, we'll actually have a little simulation for them. A little different than what we did for the 18 to 34, but we're going to test some CrossFit workouts. We'll do some high skill workouts. We'll have a cyclical piece that kind of looks like what they've seen in the past for the age group qualifiers. And then we'll taper that following week, basically leading into the week of May 3rd. And then obviously we're going to crush that week. I think it's the 6th through the 10th for them. Yeah. And hopefully the workouts are a little bit better prepared for CrossFit. They tell us exactly when we got to start them and when we'll finish them.
Question: is the simulation weekend going to be exactly what quarterfinals was?
Yes. This looks like the first workout. So yeah, we'll basically do that. And then after we get through our stage 2, we'll have another video of what the off season will look like for Masters. But right now it's kind of full steam ahead. Everyone that's in the Masters path is prepping for stage 2, and then we'll all do those together.
Yeah. And if this is a first video that you're watching, we've already done a video about what that preparation looks like. Maybe we can just put the link in the description so people that are Masters that want to know what that training looks like and how we're thinking about it can watch that one.
Yeah. And in the design, if you are signing up now or have already signed up, I also have an additional video in there from 2 weeks ago. If you go back to a Sunday, I'll re-link that so that they can watch that video. And that's a more detailed analysis of kind of the next few weeks.
Videos galore.
Yeah, something to add to this division that we're calling it the Masters division, but it's kind of the age group division.
Age group, yeah.
Age group and occupation. Because we actually had a question like, hey, I'm a teacher, I'm doing the occupational games, like what track should I follow leading into this? I'm like, well, you're competing the same weekend as the Masters. So I would follow that same peak, that same simulation weekend, and just make modifications as you need, like if you need more or less, just depending on what you're writing. So, but it's the same training peak. So I would recommend doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. What's next?
All right, RX and intermediate.
The big one.
Yeah, I think this is like where the majority of our athletes are going to go. Obviously, getting top 120 in North America or 60 in Europe or wherever else is pretty challenging. So most of them, maybe even you're close, are going to move into an off-season program. So what's that going to look like, guys?
Yeah, all right. I'll start with some of the strength work, right? We're going to get back to just some good, consistent, linear strength progressions. One, it's super fun, and it's great to see progress week to week on things. Two, I think, again, as we've mentioned in the offseason, it's super necessary to make sure that you're pumping the brakes and getting back into things that are not pulling away from your ability to get better at those big limitations. So starting with like a simple split that we'll go through Monday. There we go. Okay, Monday, front squat. One of the big things we're going to actually retest in the cycle is the front squat 4RM. All right, it's like one of the most recent tests that a large pool of people did. So I thought, all right, this is a good opportunity and a good absolute strength lift that we can retest over like a 6-week cycle. So we'll hit that on Monday with some single leg strength, just making sure that knees and hips are feeling healthy. What are you smiling about?
I was gonna say something and I realized I was gonna cut you off, and Mia caught me so I didn't.
So we still cut you off.
Yeah, we're going to smile. I was like, did you fart?
Well, since you are cut off, I think we should note that the RX and intermediate paths are going to mirror each other.
Yeah.
At this point, there's going to be some differences, which we can talk about after this. But the strength work that you're talking about now, the intermediate path is also doing.
Yeah.
So the templates will be the same. The actual training will be slightly different based on the division.
Big happy family.
So the strength work just makes sense for everyone to do, because if you're an intermediate or an RX athlete, both have to get stronger at the same things, essentially.
Yep.
I was going to say about that forearms front squat, I was amazed at how many people did the games stage 1 and then improved their 1RM and hit it for 4.
Oh, yeah. You talking about the high level guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this field of athletes is improving in huge numbers in 6 months.
Yeah. Well, what order was the front squat 1RM tested?
Front squat in the actual
games.
games?
Yeah. Because the 4RM
it was
100%
after Friendly
fresh.
Fran.
Yeah. I was laying down in the bed with COVID when it happened.
Yeah.
So I don't
remember
it's
that.
not
It was
burned into
It was
my
the
memory
second.
that well.
It was the event after Friendly Fran.
So that definitely played a role. But they
True.
still are
10,
improving.
15 pounds,
Yeah.
but yeah, for sure.
Sorry. I was going to say, I do think, and I know I just said this a second ago, but absolute strength is just so vitally important now in the sport. Everyone is getting so strong.
Yeah.
And if the trend continues where the bias is higher power movements, like all of these workouts, even the rope climb GHD, those that could just move fast on that did well. But you think about like workout 1, you had to go full speed. Workout 2 was full speed. Workout 3 was a high power on the row. And workout 5 being power snatches at 185. And was it 115?
135.
135. Yeah.
135.
I mean, it's just so heavy.
Yeah.
There were people that couldn't even snatch that. And so like, if you want to get to that next stage, absolute strength has to be like priority number 1 for you right now. And it's not just, I think the problem with CrossFit in general is we fall in love with it because it hurts, but the pain is like, that's kind of like a secondary thing to the get stronger first and have all the skills first.
Yeah.
And so many people get really punished on the leaderboard for not being able to hang on the strength numbers.
Look at stage 1. The people crushed the Metcon in 21.3.
Yeah.
But then they did really poorly on the complex, and that may have kept them out or just like lowered them from 100th place in the world to 1,000th because they had a 200-pound complex instead of maybe 275 or 280.
I mean, Jake
I had a
on
screenshot
site.
of that.
Yeah, and he was just on our podcast. He was top
30 in all the Metcons.
Yeah, top 30 in all the Metcons, and then 1,000. And
He front squatted 330 for 4. That's not weak.
I know. And he almost was, he ended up finishing, I think, like 90 something, but almost kept him out, even though 4 of the 5 tests, he was in the top
World class.
Yeah, world
So
class.
before the 5th workout was added in, he was 3 spots above the cut line or something.
So CrossFit related, he's one of the best in the world, top 20 in the world, right?
Yeah.
But because of that, and obviously he knows that, and that's like a great thing. He continues to get stronger, but I guess more people need to buy into that, especially those in the design.
You know what Jake did for a large majority of the year? A ton of squat progressions.
Yeah.
And if he didn't do that,
And
he wouldn't have made
kept
it.
doing
I know.
it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, jumping back into just the split of it, just to give you an idea of what. No, I won't go into too much detail, but Tuesday pressing work, absolute strength work, unilateral pressing as well. Just again, right now being off season, just making sure that we're shoring up any asymmetries, keeping your bodies healthy. Wednesday, pulling work, deadlifts, hinging, lunging work. Friday, Olympic lifting skill and strength work with some more pressing and some back squats. Saturday, throwdown with a strength piece that's going to vary depending on what we did through the week. Right. So that's just the strength progressions in general. I'm going to talk about the CrossFit.
Yeah. So with the RX CrossFit, and this will vary a little bit when Mia does the intermediate, but the way that we're going to set this up is there are still going to be 2 days in the week that we're doing hard CrossFit Metcons or moderate CrossFit Metcons, depending on what the throwdown is. So one of those is going to be the throwdown on Saturdays. And then Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, one of those days each week, we'll have a Metcon. The other 3 days of the week, we're going to bias more muscular endurance or skill-based training. So what that may look like, we saw in event 1, this is a good example, event 1 in stage 2, people may have strict handstand push-ups, kipping handstand push-ups, all those skills, but they got completely blown up in that and either got time capped or got a score that was 2 or 3 minutes slower than the elite males and females, and they're trying to figure out why. Well, the way to develop that, to be able to actually increase your capacity, especially with something like shoulder endurance, is not necessarily just going in and doing hard metcons with strict handstand push-ups all the time. So what we want to do is take a step back and say, hey, let's work on your strict handstand push-up capacity. Let's work on your kipping handstand push-up capacity or shoulder endurance capacity by doing it in more of like a interval style work or rest to full recovery. Let's build some volume. So one way to do that may be I'm doing 5 sets of so many strict handstand push-ups, rest 30 seconds, into so many shoulder to overhead, rest 30 seconds, into an AMRAP of handstand or kipping handstand push-ups, like different variations where we're still focusing on the overhead pressing mechanics and getting the volume in, but not crushing you with just like row intervals into that or a 10-minute AMRAP of handstand push-ups with something else. Correct.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to understand that the progressions that sometimes will be seen in the elite path or that will be explained in videos of programming where you're doing that to help somebody with their strict handstand push-ups are different for an elite athlete versus somebody that needs to develop more volume in the skill, because that allows for so much more of training volume and so much more practice and so much more speed versus, okay, I just got to failure in this Metcon that has handstand push-ups in it and I need to do more handstand push-ups, so I'm going to do more handstand push-ups in Metcons, but you're only accumulating 20 reps because you're standing looking at the wall, getting frustrated and failing reps. So I think this is a really good time to just understand the difference between training and competing, and we're going to train those skills as opposed to compete in them. And maybe every once in a while they'll still show up in the throwdowns.
Correct.
And stuff.
Yeah. So you're going to see those skills still and the chaos of CrossFit in the throwdown or in the Metcon Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And the way that we're going to write this, we're going to undulate the week. So basically the things that were like, it's categorized into 4 kind of systems, so to speak. We'll have a squat endurance day, we'll have a hinging endurance day, and upper body pressing and upper body pulling. But the weeks that we're not doing those, you may do a Metcon with those movements in it. So then we may be able to create some chaos with, now you're doing a squat upper body press combo or a squat upper body pull combo that's similar to what you see in the sport, but it's going to be every couple of weeks that you test those, and the rest of it's training. So we'll still do the training that leads into those, quote unquote testing days, but it allows us to, again, create the volume and the speed that we need for those movements.
Yeah. So the intermediate's going to follow similar suit, right? We said the strength progressions are similar, but in terms of the CrossFit itself, what's the difference from someone who's coming in and is like, all right, like which one do I do? Like I need to get better at certain skills.
So if you have skill limitations, then I recommend following the intermediate path, because we're going to have a lot more focus on not just the endurance of the skills, which we will work on, but in a different format where it's you're able to build the muscular endurance while also beforehand working on the actual skill development. So intermediate path has been for the past 2 weeks already in our off season, and we already started a retest cycle of toes to bar and handstand push-up. So we're working on the skill of toes to bar, being able to link them together and more body control in it, and then similar with handstand push-ups, and we'll retest that in a few weeks. So you'll have that skill development aspect that you won't see as much in the RX path.
Right. So there's someone like trying to improve the ability to actually do the movement.
Right.
That might be limited from,
or not even if you can't do the movement
you can't
at
even
all.
do it. Versus capacity development.
I have 15 unbroken strict handstand push-ups, but I want to improve my capacity versus I don't have any, or I have 12 unbroken ring muscle ups versus I don't have any.
Or I can only do singles.
Correct.
And they fall
and they
apart.
break down and my body line's not good.
Right.
So it's really just a gradient of experience from like the skill needs to improve to be able to train it to, okay, I'm going to train it. And then, okay, now I need to practice doing it in a competition-based setting so that I can, take my training capacity and allow it to hold up under fatigue. Yeah. So that's really kind of the difference between what we see in intermediate, RX, and elite.
Yeah, so usually these cycles run like 6 weeks. So we'll have kind of like a peaking point up to 6 weeks where we retest some things. We'll have another video that comes out explaining updates on it and then what we're going to change at that 6 week point, and we'll continue. But it's going to be kind of the same cycle through the summer here. Another thing we're going to add that we did last year that was a lot of fun was some Murph prep. Right. So last year we actually did Murph as the group, and it was super. What are you smiling about?
You said a lot of fun.
It was fun, dude. I thought the prep was awesome.
The prep was awesome. The actual test, I would still want to stab Kyle Ruth in his kidney for making me do it at 12 o'clock.
Oh, it was so hot here.
I don't think Max could have gotten any closer.
Guess
to the
who's
fan.
gonna do it this year?
Are you gonna do it?
Oh yeah, I am.
Yes.
No.
Why? I did great last year.
Only if Max does it though.
No. If I do, I'm doing it at midnight. What's the coldest time of the day? What's the
Like
coldest
2
time of the
a.m.-ish?
day? Yeah, 2 a.m.
Oh man. That's so funny.
That'd
Yeah,
be
so,
hard.
so we'll have some progressions in there leading into that. I'd say like 6 weeks out, you'll start seeing volume progressions for that. I don't want to take up too much of the training this summer, but obviously we want you to feel prepared and not go into it like a ball of cramping
Will you do it
mess like
with
I would
strict
be.
pull-ups?
Can I have a band?
Yeah,
That'd be hard. Huh?
That would be. If you get really
The
sore.
pull-ups to me were definitely like the easiest part of
The push-ups, right? I feel like
push-ups
I
are the
yeah.
worst.
Push-ups took forever.
Yeah.
You know how long it takes to get to 200 when you're doing twos?
100 sets of 2.
Oh man. Yeah, we're gonna have judges this year. We were like, everyone was bitter about how they did against each other, so now we started pointing fingers.
I got to pay someone off.
But yeah, so we'll have that in there as well. Guys, anything else to add in terms of RX or intermediate paths?
I think the only other thing is that we don't have specific dates or what we're going to do, but we have a plan for trying to make the off season more fun and engaging. We did 2 competitions last year. We did the Quarantine Classic and the Winter is Coming Classic. Hey, I got it right. And we plan on doing something similar to have some competitive engagement, some fun, direct things to train for. I think that's important. If COVID continues and some of this off-season stuff gets canceled again, we don't really want the next time people are competing to be the Open next year. Yeah. So we'll have a process for ensuring that as a group, we have some fun stuff to do, which I think will set you up for more success if you're doing some of the training because we're kind of in control of the competition. So we'll make sure that we're training the things that are in there.
Yeah, it puts a little pressure in training knowing you have a timeline to be set to or something coming up. So you keep things a little tighter throughout the year.
I'd also be curious. I mean, maybe that's part of something we can do in a survey. We did those things. I got a lot of feedback and like just tags on Instagram and people reaching out on Instagram thanking me, but I'd be curious to know how much like that direct competition experience and those practice things that we just set up for fun actually helped people be more dialed in when it mattered. Just even practicing, filming your videos, putting something up on a leaderboard, dealing with the pressure. Yeah. So we do it for fun with nothing really on the line, but I actually do think it adds to your yearly experience if you can do those things.
Yeah, I agree. I think just having exposures like any other sport, you have to practice it and you have to practice it full speed. Maybe not all year, but a couple times a year, you're getting that exposure.
Yeah.
What else, guys?
Cool. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think that's it. I'm excited for this cycle. If you're new to the design or watching this video and you haven't been a part of the community before, jump in now. It's a great opportunity to get involved with brand new progressions, a cycle where a large majority of the group is doing it together. So yeah, hope to see you in there.
Get better at the sport of CrossFit alongside some of the best athletes in the world in our online training program, The Design. Head over to trainingthinktank.com/DSGN to learn more.